Hi, I'm Nora Armani, and this is the fourth of our Meet the Filmmakers series, broadcast live on our YouTube channel and also streaming live at a bunch of places. One of them is our Instagram, but that will be cut short after an hour. I don't expect for us to go more than an hour anyway. And also, the other one is our um, um, Facebook page. Yes, we have only the right to put three. Otherwise, we have to pay a whole bunch of more money, arms and a legs. And anyway, joking. Okay, this is the Socially Relevant Film Festival New York, and this is our 11th annual edition. And we are so happy to say that we have come 11 years uninterrupted, with the exception of two of the COVID years that were 2020 and 2021. The festival didn't stop. We just migrated to an online only festival. And when we realized that the online section is not so bad after all, because people were able to join us from all over the world, be able to see all the films. Plus, what we are doing right now was born at that time, meaning that we were able to interview all the filmmakers that were who were participating in the festival instead of just only the ones who were able to come to New York. So there were a lot of advantages. So we decided that when we were able to come back in person to make it into a hybrid film festival. And this year's event opens on March 13 at the Maisels Documentary Center up in Harlem. And then it goes through until the 18th of March for all the in person events and screenings. After the 18th, on the 19th, the online section kicks in, with the exception of a few films where the filmmaker didn't wish to, or they didn't have the license for online broadcast. Everything else is offered online, but only after we are done with the in-person section. And the information for the online section is going to be put on the website as we go along. So today, without further ado, I'm going to open the field and invite our filmmakers who are here with us and ask them to go quickly around, introduce themselves, tell us what their film is about. And once we are done with that, we will go in depth and talk about each film. So I have Anna on my left, so maybe she can start.
Thank you, Nora. It's a pleasure to be here, streaming in from upstate New York. So my name is Anna Fahr. I'm the writer-director of the feature film Valley of Exile. It's a film that we shot in Lebanon, and it's a story about sisterhood set against the backdrop of the Syrian war, basically chronicling the journey of these two young sisters who arrive in Lebanon in the early years of the war and quickly realize that they have nowhere to go. And so they wind up in a refugee settlement where they're taken in by a Palestinian Syrian refugee. And we shot the film in an actual refugee settlement in the Bekaa Valley. We worked with a mix of professional and non-professional actors. I'm very happy to be
We'll
here.
come to the details. Let's just go quickly now. Only tell us who you are, the title of the film, and what it's about. And then we'll each have a chance to dive more into it. So, Kardash Onnig, tell us about yourself and your film in a
Yeah,
nutshell.
yeah. Kardash Onnig. Uh, the, Basically, the intent of the film was about refugees. My father, genocide time, had been kicked out of Turkey into Deir Zor. So we all grew up, just like Jews, the word Auschwitz means something. For all Armenians around the world, Deir Zor meant something because that's where the end was. But suddenly, the locals helped my family, my people, anyway, they get it together. And when the Syrian civil war started, and the first thing happened, a million people from Deir Zor got kicked out to Turkey. And I thought, oh, those poor refugees, just like us. So I started making the film of how we as a family, refugees, have evolved, adapted, and what you had to give up, what to adopt. And that's what the film is all about. It was made for refugees, basically.
Yeah.
And hopefully through here, somehow refugees get to see it.
Yes, the idea of putting these films together is that we are telling stories about the human experience, and that's why we like to call ourselves the Socially Relevant Film Festival, and we focus on social issues and human interest stories that don't necessarily deal with gratuitous violence or special effects or explosions or chases or what have you, to say nothing, so hopefully by the end of the festival, I personally learned so much from these films. Then hopefully the audience will agree with us that it's such an amazing experience. So Patrick, tell us about your film, which is more of a short, but okay, you tell us.
Thank you, Nora. And it's a pleasure to be here with you other super talented filmmakers. So my project is a music video. It's original music that was written and performed by myself, and then with a team of super talented other people, including a flamenco dancer, Elisa. The whole thing came together, and it's about depicting the humanity of refugees, migrants, whatever you want to call them, people who are moving to the U.S.'s southern border, in many cases caused by U.S. foreign policy in the past and the things that we've done to Central and South America.
Yeah, it's interesting because your film kind of is screened before Crosses in the Dust, that Irene is going to talk about in a second. And they go very, very well together because one is talking about what happens at the border and the desire, the chaos and the crossing and so on, all condensed into one song. Whereas Crosses in the Dust is talking about the unfortunate end that a lot of people meet when they are trying to opt for a better life, for a better human condition. So, Crosses in the Dust, Irene.
Hi, my name is Irene Pons. It's great to meet all of you, and it's an honor to be here with you. I'm actually a lawyer and an immigration attorney, and I also work for the Mexican consulate as an attorney. I created an immersive experiential learning opportunity for students at the University of Central Florida to go to the border and experience the realities of what's really happening and the harshness. So it's a documentary series that covers every state that borders the United States and Mexico, and in Crosses in the Dust, it focuses on the policy of prevention through deterrence, which is weaponize the desert so that people purposely go through there and die.
Yeah. Wow. Exactly. It's a powerful documentary, and it's very important for us to know how these people, they are not helped. The canisters, water canisters are shot so that the water, they don't find water. It's harsh conditions under the sun and so on. And they can carry so much water with them. They can't carry too much. So groups of people help them. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you more the movie because you have to see it. But anyway, okay. But it's very, very powerful. And it's doing, both of these films are opening the festival on March 13 at the Maisel Cinema. Yes, Jimi.
Yes, hi, I'm Jimi Petulla. I have a film called Trust in Love. And basically, it's about a successful record producer who's trying to revive a band to get one last hit out of them. And at the same time, his wife all of a sudden wants a divorce, and his son is coming out as gay. And it's a drama and somewhat of a comedy.
Yeah. And there are some recognizable names as well in your film. So, it being such a powerful narrative feature. So here we have 2 documentaries, 2 narrative features, and 1 music video. So the music video situation is recent, relatively recent with the festival. We didn't used to have music videos, but then we realized that some of the music videos are very powerful, and they have a very powerful socially relevant message. And in a short span, in a very short span, through song and music and so on, they are able to convey a very powerful social message. So we opened up the field for that. And I'm happy to say that a few years ago, we had a film called Rejoice, Resist. It was also a music video, and it was about the Black experience. Girls were dancing and singing and saying we have to rejoice, but we have to resist, and so on. And we used that as a title for the BIPOC section of our film festival, which is now in its third year. And we wrote to the filmmakers and we said, can we use your title? Of course, titles and ideas are not copyrightable, but nonetheless, we asked them, and they were very thrilled. They were very happy. So the BIPOC section of our film festival is called Rejoice, Resist BIPOC Films. So you see, from music videos, nice things come. Okay, so my next big question, and this time you don't have to go like ducks in a row. You can, whoever feels like jumping in can come in and share their experience. The question is, why, how did the idea of this film come about? And why did you tell us? Why did you choose to tell us this story? Who wants to?
Well, if I may, I think I almost answered that question initially. It was following the civil war in Syria daily, and knowing that my father, age 4, was in Deir Zor dying. So it was like feeling it every day. And as an artist, sometimes we're hopeless of what art can do, but I still attempt. So the point was, I start thinking of what can I do to help those. And looking at the film that I have made through the years with my sister's interviews, and they, all 4 of us are rebellion in the family. And I realized how complex it was for them to give up certain cultural thing they brought with them, and how to trust to adopt new stuff. And we have a lot of example. One sister wants to dance Spanish, the other one is a Buddhist, the other, we were like totally trying out, but adopting, in America. So I thought this would help them to see that we can all do it. We can all do it. That was the whole film was all about, basically. And I had some footage from, my mother especially. Our family is nuts about taking photographs. Every Christmas, New Year, at family. So I'm used to it. So I had photographed videos at different times at parties and things. So I had good footage to put the film together, and it made sense. And I had a great editor. So
yeah, actually, it's very interesting because your footage is powerful, and it's some of it is so old, and you go, wow, I wish I had such footage from my family. So really, I applaud your family for being so conservation bound, and they kept all these things and they recorded all these things. It's very, very important. So you see, your films with Anna kind of link together in a way, because talking about refugees in a certain part of the world in the Middle East, and that's what Valley of Exile is also about. So I mean, somebody might think, oh, I'm doing it on purpose. So I put all these films together, the Mexican experience, the crossing the border, the Syrian one, the Valley, and this and that. But not necessarily. We don't plan ahead. When we are receiving all these submissions on the festival platform, on the submission platform of the festival, at the beginning, we are just looking for good films and good stories. And then once we decide which ones are the good ones and they start floating to the surface, that's when the themes start becoming obvious. So I have, oh, yes, of course, that was your message. Because we also have a comment section. I should put a welcome note to our audience. Welcome to our session. Please put your questions here for our filmmakers or for me. Okay. Yeah, because people can, whoever is watching can ask us questions and they will put them in here in the comments section. And if it's directed to a particular filmmaker, they get to answer. Right. The idea of the film, how did it come about? And why are you telling us this story? So who wants to be the next person?
I can pick up since we're still in the world of the Middle East. Well, so my background actually is not Syrian. My parents left Iran in the early years of the revolution, and so I've always kind of been interested in telling stories about migration and what it means to sort of live in between places. So I had made several films before making Valley of Exile that were similarly exploring themes of migration and refugee experiences. I made a short film called Transit Game. I made several interactive documentaries specifically focusing on women. And so Valley of Exile was kind of like the next stage in my sort of artistic journey of exploring themes that are in some ways deeply personal to me, knowing that my parents went through sort of a similar journey, but under different circumstances. Obviously, the two characters in my film are fleeing a war zone, whereas like my family, they were leaving a country that was going through dramatic changes at a time of revolution, and that was also followed by the Iran-Iraq War. And so in some ways I'm connected thematically to the story, and it's just sort of been an ongoing exploration over 20 years of independent filmmaking.
Very interesting, because a lot of these refugee experiences have many, many similarities. And the reasons why somebody is a refugee or leaves their home and goes to another place, they're many and varied. It could be a war, it could be economic reasons, it could be what's happening today in the Middle East with ethnic cleansing and genocide and you name it. The reasons are many and varied for people to become displaced, to lose their homes, and to experience situations where they are completely helpless and don't know where to go, what to do, who to go to. And your film depicts that situation between the two sisters who find themselves going from one refugee camp to another. Well, we won't tell everybody the story, so they come and find out for themselves. But it also is interesting because we don't think about the people's relationships. When we are talking about refugees, we're talking about not normally what we hear on the news or social media and all that. We're talking numbers. X number of people were displaced, X number of people became refugees. And then who are these people? They are, each person has dreams, has aspirations, has a life, has needs and desires, and all of that is shattered. And they have to pick up and start from the beginning and make a new life for themselves. Some of them are unable to do that and suffer psychological and physical losses as well, the extreme being the loss of life. And others are able to pick up and go to a new place and adapt. That's also the resilience of the human spirit, that we are able to pick up and adapt. And the Partings and Landings film also is about that, and how your family has adapted, and or not. Some have, some haven't, and it shows us that. So we have three more people on the same question. How did the idea come about, and why are you telling us this story?
And I'm happy to jump in here. And again, I have a music video. It's only 3.5 minutes long, but I've seen that it conveys a lot of emotion and feeling for people that watch it, and including myself. If I haven't seen it in a while, maybe one of the first clues that it was powerful was when the audio co-producer, we ran the whole, just the music itself, and he had tears in his eyes. And it made me feel like I had done an okay job of, I'm trying to embody the humanity of people that feel so desperate that they leave their home countries and they go on a dangerous journey to some other place where they think it'll be better for their families. And just to emphasize the fact that these are people with families, with family connections. They're trying to make a better life for their children. But the miracle of my project is sort of, you have the lyrics, you have the music, and then you have the visual component. And I had so much help from so many amazing people, and just to have the idea to have a dancer be the centerpiece.
Yeah.
And Kindred Parker, who did the video, he introduced me to Yelisa, the incredible dancer. And it so happened that she had a really strong connection to a Honduran person. So my song is a little snapshot of Honduras, because in 2009, there was a coup that the U.S. kind of tacitly supported for, typically we were looking for allies that would fight against Venezuelan politics at that time. But it turned out that we allowed a coup by families that were involved in the drug trade. Honduras was overtaken by unbelievable violence. And of course, people were just scrambling to preserve their families' lives and go north to the border with the U.S., only to be met by walls and tear gas and that sort of thing. So I just tried to imagine what it would feel like when a man with his wife and his children trying desperately to find a better life, and then only to be met by vicious, destructive approaches from the Northerners, who ultimately maybe caused the whole thing to begin with because of what they did politically.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I'm going to ask Irene to jump in here, because it naturally segues from the same theme that you are talking about. And then we'll come to you, Jimi. Sorry about that.
I feel the same as the filmmakers. I want to convey the humanity of what they go through and kind of give them a name, a face, and tell everyone their story. It's very impactful for my students to be able to go on these trips and to feel what they do and the personal growth that they experience. And a lot of them come away saying, I had no idea. I had no idea they experienced this. I had no idea this is why they came to the United States. And for many of them on our trips, it's not just about finding a better life. One of the organizations we worked with on the ground said it really well. He says they want to find a life. It's not a better life. They just want to find a life. So whatever drives them to leave their countries is so bad that people need to understand the power of the human spirit and the fact that they will leave and take these treacherous trips where they'll likely die and risk everything to find a life.
Yeah. Each year, invariably, we get a lot of films about the refugee experience. Obviously, in 2015, it was all the people who are crossing the sea and drowning, and boats capsizing, and so on and so forth, because that was what was happening during that time. And now, of course, there's the wars, the refugees that are resulted from the wars, but the situation across the border is ever present, has always been part of the festival. We've always had films about people trying to get to. That's very interesting, that what you were saying there, that they are trying to find a life. We're not talking about people here who already have a life, but now become suddenly greedy and want to make more money or want to have a better house or a better car. They want a life. They want the right to live a normal life. And this is really very, very powerful. And your film depicts that how these people, what they are going through, you can tell that how much worse can their lives be for them to be able to confront these terrible situations just for the hope to find a life on the other end. And many of them don't. So last but not least, Jimi, how did your idea come about?
Well, mine was, I mean, I just kind of wrote what I knew. I went through a divorce like 20 years ago, and I had two young boys. The real story is I ended up raising them on my own since they were 6 and 8, but I just saw the whole dynamic of what it does to a family. And then at the same time, I have a son who, when he was 15, came out gay. And so that was another thing to deal with. So I decided to write a script about it. And I thought about it and decided to write it, and then had some people had read it and said, look, we'd like to help you make this. So we decided to make the film. And so I think it's something a lot of people can relate to. It's a lot of emotional, but also some funny stuff as well. And the goal was just to have a little entertaining. I live in Malibu, so we use that theme of showing off Malibu, and you have this successful record producer who looks like he has it all. And then all of a sudden, his wife decides she wants out. And so I really tried to make it, I didn't make it exactly what I went through, because it would have been too depressing and too dark, but I wanted to make it more of a feel-good kind of a vibe. And everything just kind of came together. We were able to get a real rock band. We were able to get Robbie Krieger from The Doors. We used his recording studio. Robbie did a little cameo for us, which was nice. And Eric Roberts read the script and said, hey, I'd like to do this therapist role. And I said, great. So we just, we had a lot of little perks that came in, which was really nice.
Yeah. So that's interesting too, because during these conversations with the filmmakers, a couple of points come up. A lot of these stories that, of course, the burning desire to tell a story comes from either the fact that people are so affected emotionally or in whatever way, because they've read about it, they've know someone who's gone through something and they want to tell the story, or it's happened to them, or it's their own story. And of course, in the case of fiction, it's fun because then you can elaborate on it, you can create a more of a comedic element. And we love comedy, because when we say the socially relevant film festival and we talk about social issues, people think, oh my God, it's going to be depressing. At the end, I'm going to come out wanting to shoot myself, because what can be more depressing than human tragedies and all these problems that the whole world is dealing with and we are dealing with and so on. But no, we like to also show the lighter side, and we like to show the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not all depressing and horrible stories. We want to elevate the human element in all of this. So I have somebody here with a comment, Michael Clays from our festival team and a board member who is very diligent with these interviews. Thank you, Michael, for always coming up with incredible questions. So the question is for Anna and the others. Michael says, I've had a more than passing interest in the Syrian experience. I find a consistent theme of refugees wanting to go home one day. But is that the sentiment? Weakening? Would any one of you want to address that?
I can speak quickly to that. Our several of our cast members are Syrian. Our two lead actresses are Syrian. They fled from Syria during the war, and they've spent the last 10 years or so in Lebanon, including the younger of the two actresses, Hala, who I just spoke to yesterday. And she knows that she won't go back to Syria. And I think that echoes many sentiments of Syrians who have been living in Lebanon for over a decade. Even though economically it's very difficult in Lebanon. The country has been going through a major economic crisis for the last 3 years. And both Syrians and Lebanese have felt the impact of that crisis. However, I think there is this sort of coming to terms with the reality that there is no home to go back to in Syria, whether for safety reasons or maybe even, the home itself. But many of the Syrians that I have met and worked with are resigned to stay in Lebanon or seek immigration somewhere else. Our second lead actress, Maria Hassan, was recently granted asylum in France. So she was, one of the few who was able to get to Europe. And I have many, many, many people who are constantly asking me, how do I go to Canada? How do I go to America? How can I do this? How can I do that? The circumstances are not easy in Lebanon, but that doesn't mean that they are willing or able to go back to Syria.
Yeah.
May
And
I-
yes, you
Go ahead.
want no, go ahead and answer that because I was
Yeah.
Yeah.
As an Armenian and our own history, I have struggled with this issue of going back. I've made an attempt of going to Armenia, lived there and all that, and kept coming back because our global issue for me is so large that nationalities mean nothing. I mean, the idea of Jews 3,000 years ago, some book gave them the title to go back to land and we're going to kill each other. It's utterly ridiculous because ecologically, unless we get rid of all these borders and come together. So for me, having come to America, I have a phenomenal life here. America has been phenomenal for me. It has helped me. It has allowed me to do mind-blowing things that I couldn't have done it neither in Armenia, nor in Lebanon, nor in Turkey. So I'm very blessed. And I kind of feel like for those who are immigrating, just go for it. Just go for it. Because America, in fact, has been the confluence of so many phenomenal cultures that here you can choose from the best of every culture and make yourself this new person. It's not a melting pot, by the way. This is an evolution, a spiritual evolution to be a universal human being. I strive for it. So I'm not going back. Not that if I was invited, I would go, but I'm happy here. I make here my home because I was blessed with this home. So that's my answer for that in terms of going back. It is utterly ridiculous. For me, it's almost an immoral thing for people to think that they're going to go back. In fact, if everyone, like the Jews, want to go back to their land, we need 40 Middle East. Armenians want a bigger Armenia. The Kurds have a bigger one. The Syrian have all. Then you have Assyrians. They have the whole thing. And everybody, you need 40. There's no room for it. Just get rid of the borders. For me, I have no borders in that sense.
Yeah. Very interesting point you have brought up there. And I'm going to suggest that you sit a little back to your right. Can you? Yes.
Right?
Because exactly, we have the logo of the festival.
Right. Okay, thank you. I got it.
It's covering you.
Yeah. Here we go. Better yet. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so true because then we have all these nations and cultures that have completely disappeared from ancient times. If we go back, how far back do we want to go? Thousands of years? 2,000, 5,000, 10,000? And then if we go back and we redraw the borders and we say, oh, no, wait a minute, the Vikings were here. No, they're not here. They came from there. They should go back there. The Turks came from Anatolia. They didn't come from Anatolia. They came from wherever. They should go back wherever. And then look at the chaos, and the chaos already exists. So if we do away with all these borders and people become much more tolerant and accepting of each other as human beings, knowing that we are faced with a much bigger problem, and that is our planet.
Yes. Yes.
our
Yes.
planet. And that's another theme from the festival themes, and the environment and the climate change and what's going on in the world around us. Then those little borders, that this is my home and that's your home business. So we have a couple more interesting questions. Oh, Jim just
I don't know how to get. Oh, there I am. Thank
yes, there you well, you can't. I have to bring you back. So so we have one more comment. We have a comment from Helen Hamada. She's asking a question, and it's addressed to Anna. And she says, when did you shoot Valley of Exile?
We shot it in the summer of 2021, in the middle of COVID, while Lebanon was going through an economic collapse. It was after the port explosion. I'm sure many of you remembered that. So we were kind of shooting at a time when there were, all of these different crises that were happening at the same time. And it was a miracle that we actually were able to wrap production. We also have a very small budget. So it's like we were working, with a tiny micro budget, and, trading money on the black market because the banks had seized many people's savings, my husband and his family included. So many people were unable to access savings. And so financially, it was a big challenge, just kind of like getting the money into the country to be able to take it out and then pay people in cash, because no one trusted the banks. People are still really angry that they've lost their life savings. A quick Google search and you'll see that there have been bank robberies of people who have tried to just withdraw their hard-earned savings and haven't been able to. So the situation in Lebanon was dire at the time, and since then, now we're seeing what's happening on the border with Israel with the bombings, and sadly it hasn't really gotten much better.
Yeah, it's really unending situation with the situation in Lebanon. In 2021, August 2021, we put together a special program. It was called Unbroken: Memory and Identity in Lebanese Cinema. And we put together a number of Lebanese films celebrating Lebanese culture in
Nice.
commemoration to mark the first anniversary of the explosion at the Beirut port.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think we don't have any more audience questions. They might come in later, but we will address them as they come. My next question is, how did you find out about the Socially Relevant Film Festival, and what made you decide? Did we all answer this question? I think we did. Crosses in the dust? I think we did. If I'm forgetting anybody, let me know. The question of how did the idea come about and why are you telling us this story? I think we all did.
Mhm.
Okay. So, wow. All right. So the next question is about how did you find out about the Socially Relevant Film Festival, and what are you expecting to gain out of this experience?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I had a friend in New York that told me about it, who's a filmmaker, and he just said, Jimmy, you might want to submit, because he, liked the theme of, as you saw in the obviously seeing in the movie, that we, we're addressing the issue of these kids, in school, and addressing the coming out, and he just thought it would be a nice fit. So I really appreciate it.
That's good. The best is the recommendation of fellow filmmakers. And I must proudly announce that we are one of the, for a bunch of years in a row now, one of the best 100 best reviewed film festivals. I hope by the end of the festival, everybody will still think the same. And we hope and recommendations from fellow filmmakers are much appreciated. Yeah. Who else?
Maybe on another note, possibly I can tie it together. But one of the positive things when I was doing the film, I realized had Arabic music, Turkish words, we're going French. So suddenly I realized something good of the culture I grew up with, because we have 38 letters of alphabet. So my mother at 7 could learn Turkish. We end up in Lebanon. She learned Arabic and French. Then she came to America. She had to learn English and all this, because the 38 alphabet that we have as a culture is phenomenal. Gives you allowed to say Ain in Arabic, or all the characters, U in French and all that. So the benefit I found making the film, how suddenly there was all these different languages being spoken in the same film, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. So the question being, how did you find out about the festival?
Well, in my case, I've known Nora since 1988, and I follow her through the years, every step of the way. So since she started doing this, I follow it. So, and here I am in it now. Thank you, Nora.
We're happy to have you. Yes.
Well, I was just going to say, I've gone to the Film Freeway kind of aggregator of film festivals. I found really helpful. I've also got a feature screenplay script that I've been putting out into the world about climate change, and specifically about how the fossil fuel industry has done a really good job of confusing people about the science and that sort of thing. So that's how I found out about Film Freeway. And then I noticed that some of these festivals accepted music videos. And so I picked and chose a couple of different ones. And I'm so thankful that I somehow came across your festival, and you've responded in kind by including my music video. So I really appreciate you.
Yeah, actually, we are so happy with Film Freeway. I am really, they do a great job. And now it's kind of the place to go to, both for filmmakers and for film festivals. And they are amazing with, like, the service they provide.
Yeah.
It's not like some platform that there used to be one. I don't want to name names, but they disappeared. That you couldn't even, if you have a question, if something's not working or something, wow, you didn't know who to go to, who to address. But like 5 minutes later, I get a response and somebody is resolving the problem and so on. It's really amazing. We are lucky. And every festival being in there, represented in there, it makes it so much easier for filmmakers to go around and find the correct fit. And this is something I need to say, if there are filmmakers out there listening, you need to find the right fit for your festival. A lot of times we find that we do have good films that have been submitted to us, but they are not socially relevant. They're not dealing with any social issue. There's a lot of violence in it, for example, which we try to steer away from unless it's very relevant to the theme. But if it's gratuitous violence and all those things, or if excessively long, or lots of things, and then I say, poor filmmakers, why are they spending their money and throwing it away like this without trying to do the research and find the festival that would definitely correspond to the work? And I'm happy to say that in this case, all of the films that we have selected obviously fall within our guidelines. Yes. And who else? Irene and Jimi. Oh, you're mute. For some reason, we can't hear you. Yeah, maybe Jimi can go, and then until you can fix the issue.
Question?
How did you come across our festival? Oh, you answered
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I told you.
Has everybody answered? I think so. I think so. Okay, so the third and last question is very simple. These interviews. One filmmaker was telling me, I want to know the format, what questions will be asked, and so on. When I said, go and watch the previous editions of the Meet the Filmmakers interviews, and you'll find out. But it's really simple. 3 questions. What's your film about, and how did you come about that topic and why you want to talk about it? How did you come to the festival? How did you find out about it? And what are you expecting? And then the third one is, what is your next project? Maybe you don't want to talk about it, or you want to tell us something else. That's fine. You have the choice, because some people think they shouldn't talk about the next project until it has actually materialized. So who wants to take a go at it?
Well, let me say what I expect from this film, because it was made basically about refugees. Hopefully, all those who see the film somehow put it out there into the world where it can connect to refugees, wherever they are. That's all the intent of the film is. And I think I appreciate that you putting it together, Nora. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really take pride in this festival, not because I'm doing it, but you can't do it by yourself, first of all, something like this. We have an amazing team, and I always thank the team members who diligently meet every week. We have every week our Zoom or, online meetings. And the ideas, there are people who watch every single film that is submitted. The ideas that the teams contributes, the work that they do, it's like a teamwork, and an incredible learning experience.
Well, I have to say, since I didn't get involved with the paperwork, my wife does that. But I realize how complex it is to put such a thing together.
Yeah.
So complex. I mean, all the necessities following and all that. It's fantastic. It's absolutely. I was
Thank you.
blown away. Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't believe so strongly in the importance of telling these stories and the fact that we need to provide the platform for these stories to be told, it would have been very difficult to go through it and to survive for the past 10 years. 11, actually. This is our 11th edition, with the exception of the 2 years of the COVID where we went online. The rest of the time we've been present. So, Irene, you were just cut off what we're talking about, how you found out about the festival.
Sure, and I'll have to say goodbye after this. I got to go teach my class. But we found out through Aaron Hose. He is a festival guru, always trying to find the right fit. And we've had a lot of, not trouble with our film, but it's like you said, finding the right festival for your film. You know, we think our film is impactful and it makes a difference, but getting it to the right place. We've had a lot of rejections this year, and we couldn't figure out why until we started finding festivals that were more socially oriented towards the theme of what we have.
Yeah, it's interesting that you should say that, because a lot of festivals, I mean, I have a lot of respect for anyone who organizes a film festival, because it's not easy. It's not a cup of tea. It's not a piece of cake. It's anything but, you know. So, but there are different festivals who have different orientations. They want to do films that gather huge crowds and become popular and so on and so forth. And some festivals do the work in that direction. They go to the major film festivals like Cannes, Berlin, Rotterdam, and whatever, and pick the films that are already doing well and bring them to their festival. We don't do that, because we feel like if I did that, then all the smaller films that nobody wants to program, nobody wants to see, nobody wants to give a chance to, will still not get a chance. Whereas we pride ourselves of being that platform who gives these films the chance they deserve. So hopefully, you know, it's a mission that hopefully will pay off for the filmmakers, because once you get seen in one festival and another person sees that, wait a minute, we thought this film was not very commercial or viable or what have you, and then they see that no, it's works very well. So Irene, I think you have to go because you have to teach, right? Don't worry about it.
Thank you. I'm going to go teach immigration law. Have a good one, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Irene.
Thank you very much for being with us. So, and then the last question, the bonus question is, do you want to, did everybody say what their next project is? No, nobody did. Okay, I did.
I could jump in.
We still have time. We still another 10 minutes. So you can tell us what your next project is.
Well, I can jump in just because it's really the first reason that I found Film Freeway. I have a feature film script that I'm promoting called Turtle on a Fence Post. And there's an old saying that if you see a turtle on top of a fence post, you know it had some help. And the climate crisis is a perfect example. You know, did we get here because humans are incapable of dealing with a slow-moving existential threat? No, the fossil fuel industry and a compliant, craven media are mostly responsible. And there's no more stark example than what my screenplay fictionalizes, an event in 2009 called Climate Gate, which was still, it's an unsolved crime. These hackers went into a private email system that climate scientists used, and they cherry-picked certain phrases from scientist emails and then smeared them with the complicity of the media. The Guardian and everybody else just completely bought into it, that they were exaggerating or manipulating the science because they had a bias. And that just happened less than a month before this UN climate summit in Copenhagen, where Obama was and all these other countries had come to maybe make an agreement to reduce fossil fuel emissions. So very cynically, this group smeared these climate scientists and their work just a few weeks before that big event and changed the whole complexity and complexion of the discussion. And that's one of the reasons why the Copenhagen summit went nowhere and nothing was achieved there. So I have a fictionalized story that's based around that true event that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, good luck. We want to see that movie. And before we see that movie, maybe next year, if it's still in the works, you can submit the script, because we also accept non-produced scripts, feature film scripts only. And there you go. So it might be a first step. So, and Anna or Jimi, whoever wants to go.
Yeah, I have a feature film in late development that I've been working on for like 7 years. I mean, it's sort of been in development along with Valley, and Valley was just like the first one that I got to make. But I have I have 2 producers who are working on it with me, and it's still kind of going into similar themes of migration. It's shot mainly in Beirut. It will be shot mainly in Beirut, and it's kind of looking at different parallel experiences of what freedom means to young people, sort of looking at the women life freedom movement in Iran and the Syrian war. And so I'm kind of trying to merge like 2 sides of my own journey, who as an Iranian daughter of an Iranian family. So yeah, that project is basically kind of bringing together different revolutionary movements through the lens of a woman who is trying to go to,
We want to see that one too.
It's still working. It's still going on. It's still in the works.
As far as I'm kind of in the infancy stages of a script about a Hollywood actor who actually was nominated for an Oscar, who would actually be in the movie, who really was an actor, who was nominated with an Oscar, who's now down on his luck and forgotten about. So I'll keep you informed as we move forward on
that. Well, we have a few more minutes, but I'm not going to go all the way to the end because I have a 7 o'clock meeting right after this. I mean, not 7 o'clock, 1 p.m. I gave myself away. I'm out of the country, 6 hours away. Okay.
Amazing.
Wow. That's
So,
good.
right. Anyone wants to jump in with a last minute, burning thought or something you want to say that you didn't get a chance to say before we go off the air?
May I, in terms of, I'm not making another film, but I have a book right now being printed. It's called My Name is Palestine. And it's basically my 75 years of, since the Nakba, since I was 7-year-old, realization of the Jewish, and all my life being married and all my studies in the Kabbalah and all. So it's basically 75 years of dealing with Jews as an issue, philosophical, spiritual, and all that.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
That could also throw a lot of light on what is going on right now, because a lot of people don't know. Many people have the impression that all this started on October 7.
Right.
So,
well, I bring it up 75 years
yeah,
through the years, because I've been involved in New York City, the art scene and all that, and the issues that I have with the Jewish issue,
right. I mean,
following
it's very important to talk about these matters, because by knowing the other, we are better positioned to understand what is going on, whether it's the Jews or the Zionist approach, or Palestine, or whatever else is going on in the world, the other types of conflicts, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and it's endless, Sudan. Any moment, at any given moment, there is something going on in the world that shouldn't be going on. But a lot of people are shutting up about it, pretending like everything is hunky-dory, nothing is wrong, and let's get on with our lives as if nothing was wrong.
Right.
But that is wrong. And hopefully, by showing these films, we are shining the spotlight on issues that deserve to be discussed. So
I just want to commend you, Nora, and your festival. I just feel like the big movies that we see coming out of Hollywood, and they're kind of empty, they're kind of vapid. The more we can do to get more interesting films that talk about reality and talk about the real human condition and the challenges that humanity is going through, so much more important than some new, serial on a comic book character. It's just amazing to me how many Americans and maybe people over the world opt for just entertainment, kind of mindless entertainment, when there's so many important things that we need to grapple with.
And somebody raised the issue, I think Anna said it's done with a very low budget. That's another common point with all the films that come to the Socially Relevant Film Festival. They are all done with elbow grease and shoestring budgets and things like that. And then you look at these horrible Hollywood movies. Mind you, if tomorrow somebody offered me a role in one, I'm not going to say no. I cannot do it because I only do low budget, socially relevant films.
Right.
I also want to echo that and say thank you, Nora, because what I've noticed as far as trying to get the film distributed is, we talk about some of the bigger film festivals, particularly when you're working on films in the Middle East. What I've noticed is oftentimes there's a certain type of film that gets programmed. There's a certain type of narrative that tends to be presented over and over and over again. Oftentimes it's about women who are subjugated, women who are victimized, women who don't have a voice or who don't have agency, and who are kind of put at odds against these oppressive male figures. There's a certain Orientalist fetish that we find in Middle East films that get into the bigger festivals. And the fact that you're giving a platform for some films that tell a different kind of story, I think is really, really important.
Thank you so
I'm really
much.
appreciative of that.
For all it's worth, I am doing it, and then let's history decide whether it was worth its while or not. I have to go offline now, so live. We're no longer going to be live. And I thank our audience as well for joining us, asking interesting questions, and join us again. We have more of these when you go on our YouTube channel in the playlist that lists all the Meet the Filmmakers sessions. You'll see the future ones that are programmed, and you can catch up on old ones that you may have missed. Thank you all very much, and all the best to you with your project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice meeting everybody.